Hello and welcome to this week's GG Weekend Watch, which is sure to be a jam-packed show this week. We have racing that we're going to be covering from Sandown, Wetherby, Musselburgh and Leopardstown. So hugely exciting. This show, of course, sponsored by SBK as usual, but we do not have our usual team this week to guide you through the racing. We have myself, as usual, in the hosting seat. We have Daryl Carter, we have Andrew Mount, but we are delighted to welcome Rory Delargy to the team then for this week to help us through not just the handicaps, as we know Rory is the handicap king, but through all of our top quality contests that we have on Saturday. So before we get started with the racing, though, we do have to credit Daryl where credit is due, because he had a fantastic week last week. He actually had the first and second of Cormier and Severance. So first and foremost, that was phenomenal. Then he had Torn and Frayed winning at 14-1, North Lodge at 7-1 as well. So very well done, Daryl. More of this week. We have enough races for you to target to bring us some more winners. So we will kick on with the racing. We're going to start at Sandown with the 115. This is a handicap chase for 5-year-olds and over just shy of 2 miles, which is a tight little contest. Gunsight Ridge, our current market leader, in the hope of building on his course and distance win over the reopposing Bundoran from last time out. So, Rory, I think it's only fair to start with our newest pundit. Who wins our opener, please?
I don't think it'll be Gunsight Ridge. It could be a number of horses, but I'd be against Gunsight Ridge here. He got it done last time out. The form looks okay. He doesn't need the heavy ground that he had there, but he's a horse who's frequently traded very short and running and then not got the job done. And although he did win last time out, I thought he was desperate for someone to come and tackle him again on the run-in. Bundoran tried to rally there. And for me, he's a horse who just wants a bit of company, Gunsight Ridge. So I think he'll run well again. But I think one of the easiest ways into this race is arguably look to lay him and running if you're into that kind of thing. Because I think, he will travel strongly. He's got a big chance on paper, but I think he'll find a way of getting beat this time. Probably hit the frame, but I'd be against him. I wouldn't be against Bundoran. I'm just a little bit wary of backing 11-year-olds in handicap chases. His second last time out came on heavy ground, but his career record shows that he's better actually on better ground. We're expecting the ground to be not far off good at Sandown. We've had some very deep ground at Sandown this season, but it shouldn't be too bad this weekend. So that'll suit Bundoran better. I think he's got a fair chance of turning the tables, having got up £1 for that. And I'd give him a chance. But the one I'm going to go for is Rico Boy at the bottom. I was with him at Wincanton last time out. I thought he was a very big price there, given the promise he'd shown last season. He was beaten when he unseated in his final start last year, but that was behind a Grade 1 performer, as we've now found out. And I thought he was well handicapped, having gone down £2 for that. He then finished second to another Crick, or again on heavy ground at Wincanton in his reappearance. I thought he was given too much to do that day. He came from a long way back to challenge at the last, but couldn't quite get on terms. With Sam Tristan-Davis taking over now from Charlie Hammond, I think that'll make the difference to him, and he's the one to beat for me.
Yeah, so Rico Boy, as Rory said, he sided with him last time out, went second, in the hope that he can go one better here. So, Andrew, I will move to you next, please, for this first race. Who wins it?
Yeah, well, welcome, Rory. And I think you've now completed podcasts. You've been on every single racing one ever. So
the bingo card is completed.
Well done. Congratulations. And yeah, Kate, not far behind you.
I was going to say I'm halfway through.
But yeah, I mean, this race is interesting. I mean, Moonlighter, how have they found a jockey for the horse? He's an absolute fruitcake. I mean, he seems to need heavy ground to make him go slow enough to actually negotiate his fences. So God bless David Noonan. I hope he's got life insurance. Rico Boy, Rory's pick. I was a bit worried about his overall strike rate of 1 from 18. And I'm against the Nichols horses as well. I know Daryl doesn't believe in unicorns, Father Christmas, and training for them, but my God, I mean, as we record this, Wincanton's been on. I've laid the Nichols horse in the first race down the chase, and he's got chinned in a match. And I'm hoping every single other Nichols horse gets beat this afternoon, because they're running like hairy dogs at the moment. He's, before Thursday's racing, he was 7 from 61 in 2022. The expected wins was about twice that. He's got Dolos and Tamarok. I mean, I've fallen for Dolos as a horse I've mentioned, goes well right-handed, goes well after a break of at least 6 weeks, but he still can't win. So, my God, I hope no one like Daryl tips him after I've talked about this. I'm sure he won't. So, yeah, I'm looking at Frero Rocher. Frero Banbou, luxury chocolates for pandas, and he was a Winter Million winner at Lingfield last time out, and his other British win came over course and distance. When you look at his record from January to April, including his French form, it's 4 wins, a 4th of 18 in the Red Rum Handicap Chase at 8 from 5 starts. So, I'll go for Frero Banbou. Gunsight Ridge, like Rory, I've never been a horse I've been a complete fan of. Place spot inclusion, absolutely fantastic. Stick him in a forecast to finish second to your pick. But I thought it was the head of the market. Frero Banbou beats Gunsight Ridge for me.
Oh, very interesting then. Yeah, for the Panda's favourite chocolate horse, Frero Banbou there for Andrew. But plenty of interesting angles taken into that. Daryl, are you going to take a Nichols horse just to spite Andrew?
Yeah, not just to spite him, because I think he's going to win. I think Dolos is a fantastic bet.
Because I'm the exact same. So
yeah,
as you were saying that, I was like, keep going.
Yeah, I do think he's a fantastic bet. He's 15 pounds lower than second in this race last year on heavy ground. I didn't entirely think that he was comfortable on heavy ground last year when he ran in this race. I think he's been better than the bare result in a couple of decent races. But I think ultimately Sandown is his track. Saves his best for at Sandown. I thought he was better than the bare result, beating 46 lengths behind Palmer's Hill at Ascot last time. I don't entirely think Ascot is where he shows his best form either. Outside of Grade 1 company at Sandown, he's got form figures of 2-2, 1-1-2. I thought it was very interesting that Harry Cobden would have had the choice between Tamarot du Matin and Dolos, and he's chosen Dolos. I'm just very surprised that he's such a big price in a field like this, to be honest. I totally respect Rory's selection, Rico Boy, though, because he did run on really strongly at Wincanton that day, and he is one I would definitely fear. But at Sandown, I just like a horse that's been and done it. And Dolos, I thought he was a great bet. I really did. Off a mark of 143. He's been dropped £15 for 3 runs this season, and I think he has been slightly better than the bare result. So, yeah, I'm going to roll the dice with Dolos.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement with Dolos. When you think he won this in 2020 off of 157 and then in 2019 off 149, this mark of 143, it looks as though it's been the ploy for me. And as Andrew says, though, I hugely respect the fact that the Nichols horses just are not running to form at the minute, probably because of the flu jabs. And that is obviously going to be a concern for Dolos in this handicap. But as you say, at that current price, with this looking like it's been the plan for him, he's a horse I could not resist either. So it is Dolos for Daryl and I. But interesting start to the day, differing opinions in the main. So we will move on to the 150 at Sandown. This is the listed contenders hurdle for 4-year-olds and over again, just shy of 2 miles, where we only have 5 runners. And I think it's fair to say this is probably another reflection of a lack of strength and depth in the 2-mile open hurdling division in this country, but it is interesting nonetheless. So Daryl, I know you love the look of this race earlier on in the week, so I'm going to head to you first, please.
Yeah, I think Song for Someone's the one to be honest. £6 better off of Guard Your Dreams. I thought the switched hold-up tactics last time at Cheltenham, although probably unintentional to be fair, didn't really work. I expect him to reverse form of Guard Your Dreams. He was ahead of him when they met at Ascot the time before. In fact, 3 of these, Goshen, Guard Your Dreams and Song for Someone all met at Ascot. Song for Someone came out on top there. I just think he's the better horse in all honesty, and he's £6 better off today. The stiff finish will definitely suit Song for Someone. I would give Goshen a mention because I thought he ran remarkably well again the other week at Lingfield, but I just don't think the ground's deep enough for him today. I think Song for Someone's got a fantastic chance. I'm very surprised that he's not a short price favourite in all honesty.
Yeah, to be fair, as you say, I mean, it's just literally in front of my eyes there. It's flip-flopped 9-4 for both Guide Your Dreams and Song for Someone then at the head of the market for Daryl. So Rory, back to you please for this contenders hurdle.
Yeah, Donald's right. The Song for Someone is the pick at the weights. You've got that strong collateral form in the Ascot hurdle, which gives him the winning of this race. But he's been disappointing a couple of times, and he's shown the same tendency both times that worries me. In the Wincanton trial last year, the Kingwell, and again in the International, he hasn't really wanted to start, and that's a big worry for me. He's essentially a very good front runner when he gets into the lead. He looks very genuine. He's a sound jumper. And I love the way he did it at Cheltenham in the International last year. But since then, he hasn't actually wanted to go on when the tapes have come down for Aidan Coleman a couple of times. And that means he's had to come from behind in both that the Kingwell and in the International again last time out. And although he's got reasonably close, well, he finished second in both. He got reasonably close last time. He was way adrift of Goshen away in Canton. That's a big concern for me because if he's not going to jump off in front, then I think his chances are limited. He's not going to lead here anyway because I think Global Citizen will. And I think the important thing about this race is to bear in mind this is short of 2 miles, and most of the field are 2.5 mile hurdlers. So I will, and I'd almost include Goshen in that. Although he was impressive in heavy ground in the Kingwell last year. He was staying on again at Lingfield last time out. He should come back to form, but I think Global Citizen could surprise them here. The prices have gone on him to a degree. I think he was put in at 12-1 in a place when the market opened, and that was a crazy price for me because he caught my eye in the Haydock, in the new one hurdle at Haydock, no longer officially the champion hurdle trial, and we keep moaning about race titles changing, but it's nice when you get a horse like the new one commemorated. Yeah. I thought he was better than the result there. That was on soft ground after another wind operation for him. He's a better horse on a sound surface. This is a stiff enough track for him, Sandown. That would be the slight concern. But I can see Keelan Woods able to get a fairly easy lead here if Song for Someone does what he's done recently and just plants himself a little bit at the start. And that'll give Global Citizen the early advantage. And if Keelan Woods plays this right, he might just be able to hold them all off. He's been a disappointing horse in the last couple of years, but he's had his issues, particularly with breathing. But as I said, I thought he came back to form last time out at Haydock. That's not quite good enough to win this, but I can see him stepping forward again, second run after a wind operation. And the horse who beat him, of course, at Haydock is a real star, isn't he?
Do you think
Tommy's Oscar? So I think he's a little bit underrated here. He's not the best horse in the race, but he might just get the perfect setup, and that gives him a chance.
Do you think they'll go forward with Goshen?
I think they'll sit handy. I don't think they'll try to lead. But that rather depends. I think if Global Citizen isn't setting a strong pace, then Goshen might go on. But I think they'll be happy enough to track Global Citizen given his
that was my thinking that they might end up turning it into a bit of a stamina test, which could well suit Song for Someone.
Would you risk Goshen that way? Would you risk Goshen riding that far forwards on the back of last time out? I know it's obviously going the right way around, but would you risk it?
Yeah, I think there's only one way to ride him, really.
Yeah, I think he showed last year in the Kingwell that he was really happy doing that, and he really caught Song for Someone on the hop. So I'd agree with Daryl. I'd be happy to go forward with him. Whether they need to lead is another matter. But yeah, I think he wants to go right-handed. I know he would.
Sorry to interrupt, Rory. I know you're new to the podcast, but you just said I agree with Daryl. That's something I never say on this podcast. So, okay, less of that, please.
Stricken from the record straight away, Rory. He needs less of that encouragement. But yeah, that's going to be fascinating, though, on the front end of a pace there. If Global Citizen, we know what a bit of a lunatic he is then for himself to go forwards, but on the back of that wind operation, he does look interesting at 7-1 there for Rory. And then, Andrew, last word to you, please, on the Contenders Hurdle. Who do you fancy?
Yeah, I struggled with this race. Because after seeing Goshen was only 3-1, I pissed myself laughing for an hour and a half. I mean, for goodness sake, I know he's going right-handed again, but my God, how many chances do you want to realise this horse isn't that quick? Good ground. Okay, he's going right-handed. That's a plus. Good ground. Don't be so flipping silly. Now, I'm in agreement with Rory. Something that's never been said on this podcast before about Global Citizen. I was impressed by that second at Wetherby Haydock, first run after a wind operation, because he got taken off the lead by Navajo Pass. He still managed to finish second. Now, in reality, Hunter's Call, who was well fancied for that race, should have beaten him because he had the race run to suit. So in terms of when I was looking at this and it was 10-1 Global Citizen, 8-1 Hunter's Call, I was thinking, my God, I want to be on Global Citizen or evens or 11-10 to beat Hunter's Call in a match bet. That's probably going to be sort of 2-1 or 4-6 now. Goshen can't possibly win. I mean, Song for Someone, he's a fantastic horse below Grade 1 level. 6 wins, 4 seconds and a third. Now, when he ran in the Unibet International Hurdle against Guard Your Dreams last time out on this program, I think I napped Guard Your Dreams because he was a 5-year-old. In that race, 5-year-olds have an incredible recent record, and Song for Someone, of course, won it last season, beating Silver Streak into second. He was, I think, one of 2 5-year-olds, along with Hunter's Call, along with one other in that race. And of course, Silver Streak came out and won in Grade 1 company next time out. So I think Song for Someone will win this. I think 9-4 is a good price. Guard Your Dreams, the reason I tipped him in the Unibet as well as the 5-year-old stats, was because he was dropping back to 2 miles. I think he's best of that trip. He's had 6 runs over 2 or 2 miles 1, and he's over hurdles, 4 wins, a 4th when he was given too much to do at Bangor under a penalty in his early hurdle starts, and a 6th in the Betfair hurdle. So I think it's really between Song for Someone and Guard Your Dreams, and I mean, Song for Someone should probably be around even. You're getting 9 to 4. That's a bit bonkers, really. And Global Citizen, I think, will run well without winning, and they might just tee it up for the closers. So yeah, I'm. Oh Christ, I don't want to say it. I'm in agreement with Daryl. I'm like someone.
What in the multiverse is going on today? We've only had 2 races, and Daryl is getting so many votes of confidence here. So Daryl, you're doing something right to butter this pair up anyway. But yeah, Song for Someone then does look a very fair price at 9-4 for Andrew as well. Now we will move on to a Grade 1. This is the turn of the Grade 1 Silly Isles Novices Chase for 5-year-olds and over 2 mile 4 at 2:20 at Sandown again, where again we only have the 5 runners, but Lompress is a strong market leader at an odds-on price in the hope he can win this to springboard him onto a tilt at the Turners, where he's best price 8-1 at the time of recording for the Turners. So Andrew, does Lompress win this Grade 1? Firstly, to give Charlie Deutsch his first Grade 1 win as well.
Yeah, this is tricky. I mean, regular listeners and watchers will know that the 4 of us, Roy, are big fans of Lompress, and we all tipped him up last time out when he won at Cheltenham. But when he races right-handed, he jumps out to his left. Good ground saw his only defeat here at Sandown, and he's been scratched on ground, officially good to soft on occasion. So really, he's running on ground that's too quick for him unless they get loads of rain on Friday. He's running the wrong way round. He might still outclass them and win this. Pick Dory, I couldn't have because of the Nichols form. As we speak, I'm counting my money because he's just another favourite beaten in a 3-run race at Wincanton, who found absolutely diddly squat for pressure. And you've got Master Coffee, who probably needs to go left-handed and only ever wins when he's favourite. So you're looking at this race, you think of there's 5 runners as we speak. The chances are, if they don't get any rain, I think Lompress will be a non-runner. That will leave 4 runners, and Pick Dory is a short price favourite. Pick Dory will run like every other Nichols horse in the last few weeks and finish out the back of the field. And so you're looking at 4 runners, just combine the other 3 in a combination forecast or have a place pot and stick the outsiders in. So if Lompress turns up, jump out to his left, lose ground at every fence, hate the ground, but still win. Just oppose Pick Dory. No doubt Daryl's picking this race.
We will wait to see that. But yeah, if Lompress, like I say, going back right-handed, it's going to be very interesting for him. Daryl, has Andrew sort of teed you up there? Are you on the side of Pick Dory?
No, I'm not on the side of anyone really. I like Lompress. I'm not going to get involved in this race financially. I do. This is not ideal really for Lompress, is it? It's left-hand, like Andrew just said, left-handed, jumps out to the left, ground faster than ideal. Yeah, it's a slight concern for him, but I do think he's a Grade 1 winner and waiting. I think he's a very good horse. This is no easy feat, is it? Either if Pick Dory turns up on top of his game. I don't know. I really don't know. I haven't got an opinion really in this race, so I'll probably leave it to the 2 lads to dissect this.
It's completely fair. Yeah. So, Rory, did you have any stronger opinions on this race at all?
I've got a very strong opinion that Lompress will win if Venetia lets him take his chance. There is a vague possibility that if the ground is deemed too quick, that he'll come out of the race. But I'm not a big fan of Pick Dory. I thought he rather threw himself on the floor at Newbury. The race he won at Ascot was a pretty poor one. I think he's clearly got a fair bit of talent, but I wouldn't want to back him at almost any price in this contest. So I think the market will be against him as well, because the market has largely been against the Nichols runners this week. I did a piece yesterday suggesting that a Nichols favourite was one to leave alone. It drifted about from 7-4 to 9-1. So the market, I think, will react to the fact that the Nichols horses are struggling a little bit, and that means that Lompress is going to be a very short price. I don't really want to be against him. He's a very exciting horse. I'd like to see him win this well and go to Cheltenham with a good chance in I guess what will be the Turners at that meeting. So it'll be disappointing for British racing if he blows his lines here, really, because we're struggling for home support.
We really are. To be fair, we spoke about this the other day. The Venetia is actually sort of holding up our novice chasers to an extent with Brave Siaska in the Arkle, and then hopefully Lon Presse then in the Turners as well. And hopefully he can win this en route if, as the lads have said there, do play with caution though, if he doesn't take his chance in this race due to the ground, because it is currently good at the time of recording. Now
yes, before you move on, I was going to say it's not so much Paul Nicholls and Nicky Henderson who are holding up the fort, but Venetia Williams and Milton Harris.
Yes, exactly. I know. What a turn up for the books then this season. Yeah, the Williams and Harris then and double for the festival for the British. Yeah, so we will look forward to that then obviously in due course. We'll move on to the 255, apologies, at Sandown. This is a grade 3 handicap hurdle for 4-year-olds and over 2 miles 7. A very open contest. Beauport marginally heading the betting at 5-1, but it is very competitive. So Rory, as I said at the top of the show, you are the king of the handicap. So please solve this one for us.
Beauport's interesting, stepping up to 3 miles, and it's interesting that they've taken their time going up and trip with him, because he was impressive when winning the EBF final last year over 2.5. He looked that was a real stayers race, and he looked like a horse who would come into his own over a trip. He was slightly reminiscent, if you got a long enough memory, of Corbière, who ran in the same colours. So he's got the scope to improve a fair bit stepping up. My only concern with him, and a sort of reasonably big concern, is that he is a soft ground horse. It may well be that that's the step up and trip will negate any ground concerns. But I'm a little bit concerned about potential conditions for him. Obviously, we might get a little bit of rain tomorrow, so we'll see. But I was with Green Book last time in the Lanzarote, and I'm not going to desert him now. No. Very, very unlucky there on seating Ned Fox when a horse with a perfect jumping record fell in front of him. And that was a real kick in the teeth, especially as he was sitting in about 3rd place at the time, and the race was completely dominated by those who were handy all the way. He's been very impressive over hurdles this season. His first win with Ned Fox on board came over 2 miles, a sharp 2 miles at Haydock, and it's a horse who stays 2 mile 5 on the flat. So he's been crying out for a step up and trip. He won. Venetia found him a good race without a penalty for that conditional riders race. I think it was a Lady Amateur Riders contest as well. So it wasn't the strongest race on paper. It's actually worked out very well. It's turned out to be quite strong for him. And then he was very well supported to win at Kempton last time out, and we didn't get to see what he could do. The handicapper just hasn't had a chance to get to grips with Green Book. Obviously runs off the same mark as he did last time, which is 130. And given he's won twice off 122 very easily, I think there's tons of scope for improvement. And he gets in here with 10 stone 6. Charlie Deutsch on board. It was nice to see Ned Fox given a chance in the big handicap last time out. But Charlie Deutsch is one of the finest riders in the country. And there's a slight question about whether he will stay 3 miles. There are a lot of horses who've stayed 2.5 miles, 2 mile 5 on the flat, who actually haven't stayed any further over hurdles. Nicky Henderson, for example, had several Cesarewitch winners, and none of them really stayed beyond 2.5 over hurdles. So there's a slight question mark about him getting this trip. But it's in fairness, it's 2 miles 7 and a bit here rather than a full 3 miles. But it's still Sandown, so that's a minor concern. But I don't want to be against Green Book because he's really impressed me so far, and I'm sure there's more to come from him.
To be fair, Rory, he was staying on really well over the 2 mile 5 in the Lanzarote. He went loose over the line last time out. So.
Well, yeah, no witness back then there.
Exactly. He gave you every reason there as he was running loose to just further break anyone's hearts that sided with him last time out and having an absolute ball running loose to the line then. So that is then Rory's selection for the 255. Andrew, back to you, please, for this race.
Yeah, interesting race, very tricky. 6.5 to 1, 13 to 2 the field at the time of recording. Call Me Lord did best of those who came from off the pace. Rory mentioned that the pace held up in that race. The winner, the second, the fourth were in the van throughout. Call Me Lord reverting to from fences, which is a massive positive angle for Nicky Henderson in the Lanzarote. So he ran third, best of the hold-up horses, 7 runs at Sandown, 3 wins, 4 places. Slight concern that Henderson's 25 runners to compete in the Lanzarote this century, only 2 of the 25 won next time out, and both were odds on. So it might be a case of the Lanzarote was the plan, and this, subsequent runs were a bit of an afterthought. But wouldn't put you off at sort of 9 to 1, including him in your play spot. Impressive Lady is a horse I've mentioned favourably here in the past. Always needs her first run of the season, but subsequently her record right-handed is 3 wins and a second from 4 starts. That second coming to Molly's Ollie's Wishes. In a mare's handicap hurdle, Molly's Ollie's Wishes is now rated £15 higher. Now, she probably does need soft or heavy ground, though, and she's a reserve, and she has been pulled out on good ground previously. But if they do get rain on Friday, she takes her chance. 20 to 1, Impressive Lady, whatever squeak. Don Levant was second best of the closers, went 5th of 19 in the Lanzarote for Evan Williams. I thought again, he would be sort of plugging on at the business end and might get into the frame. And the Cob was half interesting for Ben Pauling in the first time cheek pieces. Ben Pauling's record with this headgear in handicap hurdles, 5 wins from 36, profit of £18.25 to £1 level stakes. So no strong opinion. Impressive Lady if she runs, otherwise sort of Don Levant and the Cob, very tentative.
Yeah, but big prices for all of those. I mean, each way prices, at least on Levantis for shortest at 14s, but then you're getting 20 to 1 Impressive Lady if she does manage to get a run, and 33 to 1 for the Cob then for Andrew. So Daryl, to you now, please, for this race.
Yeah, I've got a long short list, really. I was going to give a good mention to the Cob. I thought it was quite interesting with the Cob, right? Last year at Newbury, I was on him after he had won at Haydock in a good time figure, and he was off a mark of 128, and I thought this is a good thing. I backed him quite heavily, and he ran shockingly. I couldn't believe how bad he ran. Then he went out and won the River Don by 9 lengths. Now, it was a bit of a slog that day, and he's just an out-and-out stay off the same mark, 128. He's gone to the Albert Bartlett next time, and he's been well beaten. But his seasonal return, he was only beaten 5 lengths by Pillion here. He's got a £5 swing with that horse. Then he goes to Doncaster, and I backed him and tipped him that day, and he was pulled up. And I've looked at it this morning, and it was the 29th of December 2020, 29th of December 2021. I'm just wondering if there's something that the Ben Pauling yard might do around that time, like flu jabs, that might just cause him to have run 2 poor races at the same time of year. He bounced back from a poor run the year before to win that River Don Grade 2, albeit a poor Grade 2, really. I think he's feasibly handicapped off a mark 136. I think he's got a bit more to come. So he's just very interesting at a big price. I couldn't really believe the double figure price, 14 to 1 for Don Levant. I thought he did remarkably well in the Lanzarote to finish where he did. I know Call Me Lord did the best of those from the rear of the field, but he was only beaten a neck, and he was hampered after the last by a faller. I think he's been crying out to go back up to 3 miles. His penultimate start, or his 2 starts prior, was at Haydock. First start over 3 miles. He won in no more than a hat canter for mark 135. I think there's loads of scope to come from him off a mark of 142. He's been there and done it in all some of the top handicaps. His run at Aintree last year was very, very impressive behind Tronador, a well-handicapped horse. His run at the Cheltenham Festival was very eye-catching in the Coral Cup over 2 miles 5. I just think he's been a 3-miler. I don't know why they kept dropping him back. He ran actually okay in the real kid behind Stormy Island. Again, he was hampered at the last. I think he would have finished closer than beating 7 lengths there as well. So I think at 14 to 1, he's got to be in the flat frame. I think this track will suit him. They tend to swing round the home straight at Sandown. And the race doesn't really develop until between the third and second last. So I think that should just suit the way he travels through a race. I just hope Isabel Williams knows she needs to be in front after the last, because you're not going to make too much ground up that hill. But I thought he was a good bet. But you can make cases for a lot of these. Born Patriots, another one that's been catching my eye quite often. He's actually qualified for the Potemps after finishing second at Cheltenham last time. But he had to wait behind a wall of horses coming around the home bend. It was just not ideal for him. He just had to wait, and then he ran on too late. I just don't know if Sandown's really going to suit him, but he's very interesting. So I've got a handful to back at the minute. For the purposes of the video, let's just go Don Levant each way, but I'm going to do a little bit more on this, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely catch then Daryl's column before the weekend when he's sort of analysed those other bigger price runners as well. But Don Levant himself, a very nice price there at 14 to 1, which from an each way perspective, from a consistent horse that reaches a frame, that looks very big to be siding with him there in the 255 at Sandown. So we will move on to our final scheduled Sandown contest. This is the 3:30. This is a 3-mile handicap chase of 5 rods and over, where we have 8 runners. So Daryl, back to you for this handicap chase, please.
Yeah, competitive stuff. Faraday, I'm not entirely sure is going to be a runner again with a good ground expected, I doubt. 5-star Getaway, I thought was the right favourite, but the market's got him well found. I was going to take a chance with Kapcorse. I just thought, I mean, I said it last week when I fancied him at Doncaster before he was pulled out. I just thought that that the Newbury run was excellent. I think he's been underestimated by an £8 rise. Really, I think he's better than a mark of 139. He's been very lightly raced. I suppose you've got to worry about the bounce factor a little bit, but I think he's a proper horse. And I know it's a Paul Nicholls horse again. No one was saying anything about stable form when 300 through 5-1, did they? Eh? Yeah, I thought Kapcorse was a pretty solid horse here. Like the thing with Kapcorse is you're going to know in the in the first couple of furlongs whether he's travelling really strongly and taking a pull, whether he's going to go well or not, because he can just be one of those horses that just, if he doesn't travel if he's not on a going day, he's not on a going day. So yeah, Kapcorse.
Perfect. Yeah. So Daryl then with another Nicholls runner. So that is fascinating. Andrew, sorry, were you going to say
it like that? Another Nicholls runner.
You must have been feeling amazing yourself after your vaccine, is all I'm saying. But no, I signed with a Nicholls runner, so I can't say anything. Sorry, Andrew, were you going to say something?
No, just that you're an idiot. No, because not. No, because not. No, I mean, you know what it's like with these things, and you start saying a trainer's out of form, and then an hour later they have a double, and
it's always on a Saturday as well.
They have a lot of winners, but yeah, in terms of the finishing effort of the Nicholls runners at the moment, looking at what's happened today at Wincanton as we're recording, I'm quite happy to take them on for now. I've not done a huge amount of work on this race, but I've just got to mention Disha Aber for the Philip Hobbs Yard, for the informed Philip Hobbs Yard, who's had 3 runs here at the track, first, second by a nose, I think it was. So, yeah, just in terms of, if you want a bit of interest, a horse who likes the track, maybe Disha Aber ran about 7-1.
Yeah, he definitely likes this track, doesn't he? Yeah, Disha Aber there, yep, at a fair price as well. And Rory, please, last word to you on this Sandown race.
Yeah, it's a tough. There's a couple I don't like in the race. I think Faraday may or may not run, but he didn't seem suited by good ground at Cheltenham earlier in the season. I don't like Kapcorse much, to be perfectly honest. I might be inclined to give Under Supervision another chance. He had excuses last time out. He's had an interesting season. Obviously, he almost went through the rail at Cheltenham earlier in the season. Fell early there next time, and his jumping's been a little bit in and out. But I think fundamentally he's going to be a very good jumper of a fence once he learns. He's just been a little bit headstrong, a little bit hard to teach. But he's only 6, and although he seemed to run disappointingly last time, that was a full Gold Cup trip on soft ground at Cheltenham, and he did come back with ataxia. So essentially, he tied up late on that day, and I think you can make excuses for that. I think he'd be happier back on a better surface and back at 3 miles. And I think there's, I'm sure there's more to come from him. He hasn't necessarily had the perfect preparation for a race like this, but he's a horse who's learning all the time. And I think he's capable of winning off a mark of 134. In fact, it looks potentially lenient on the pick of what he's shown this season. Gets cheap pieces on for the first time, which is neither here nor there for me. I'm not always a fan. But given that he's a little bit wayward, they might just help him a little bit. And at 7-1, he's got a decent chance. Andrew mentioned Disha Aber. I was going to throw him in there as well. He's obviously won this race twice. He's very inconsistent, and when he doesn't win, when he doesn't run really well, he tends to pull up. But he's liable to bounce back and run his race. And I was surprised he was as big as 7-1. I thought he was the type who could start favourite for this race. So if you're interested in nabbing value, I think Disha Aba's got the look of a shortener in the market.
Yeah, for sure. Like you say, around 6-1 at the current time of recording. So do watch out for that. But under supervision, I can see 9s as well there, Rory, for him. So he does
9s?
Yes, I can see 9s. So there you go. Get on it now. As Rory's made a very good case there for under supervision. So that finishes off our Sandown races. So now we're going to move over to Musselburgh, where our first race is the 205. This is the Old Yin, I think that's how I say it, conditional jockeys veterans handicap chase, which is a 0-130 handicap chase for 10-year-olds and over 2 miles 6. 6 of the 8 runners are 10-year-olds. So Andrew, that doesn't really help us with our 10-year-olds in a veterans race trend.
Yeah, I've color coded, because we're covering so many meetings this weekend. I've color coded my meetings. I've got Sandown in red. I thought it was a dangerous punting card. I've got Wetherby in blue. I've got
what does blue mean?
I've got, well, I'll come back to that. I've got Leopardstown in green, obviously, because it's in Ireland, and I've got Musselburgh in brown because it's crap. I mean, this is shocking, isn't it? I mean, But you got a horse like Cool Mix round about 3-1, who's won once from 14 starts in the last 3 years and finds diddly squat for pressure. You've got to worry. I mean, Psychedelic Rock, despite being an 11-year-old, was quite interesting because he does his winning on sort of decent ground in the sort of March to October period. And he's pulled up the last twice. He will bounce back on decent ground at some point. Probably not in this race. Maybe he'll show some promise. Should perhaps be on him next time out. But it's just a bit of a shocker, isn't it? And Valadon, despite being a 13-year-old, he ran a fantastic race at Sandown last time out. Looked short to win at one stage. Next minute he's fifth, but he'll go well from the front. But not for me. I couldn't put anything up here apart from just don't bet on Musselburgh this weekend, really.
Oh yeah, so it's brown colour coding then for Andrew at Musselburgh this weekend. Daryl, were you any more keen on this race?
Absolutely not. No.
Great.
There's loads of pace in this race though. Absolutely loads of pace. I was tempted to give Glenforsa another chance. I thought he went quite well for a long way at Doncaster last time. But I just don't know where I have him rated because I know he's fallen from the handicap from a mark of 150 or 154. I can't have him as 150 or 154 rated. So the fact that he's dropped that far on the handicap doesn't really mean too much, in all honesty, going back through the form. So I don't know where I'm at with him. I do think back on a sounder surface, back on a right-handed track and coming back a couple of furlongs in trip will suit him. But whether or not this shape of this race will suit him, he does look a sharp track as well. So perhaps Musselburgh might suit him. I thought Calipso Collonges was probably the most solid option. Ollie Murphy's got a good record here at Musselburgh, 6 from 17. Lewis Stones takes £6 off. He's fairly handicapped. He's pretty straightforward. He's pretty consistent. He can sit off the pace. So if they all charge off, then I don't think it'll be an issue for him. I thought Calipso Collonges was the most solid option, but God, do I want to back him at 3-1? Absolutely not.
Yeah, I can believe that. I think that is completely fair with this race, is the way that Daryl has just summed it up very well for us then. So, Rory, the lads, with no real strong opinion on this Musselburgh opener for us. Do you have any other ways into this race?
No other way into the race. Daryl makes the point that, about 4 of these led last time out, and 2 of them have set off at very strong paces in races this year. So it could be a burn-up. I'm always aware that when everyone thinks it looks like a burn-up, everyone suddenly becomes very sensible and decides not to go too fast. I like Daryl, Glenforsa attracted me, but he's not made me rich over the years. Glenforsa, I've not been with him too often, but when I have been, I backed him each way in his return at Ascot. I thought he would run well at a big price that day, and he did. He had a pretty hard race that day. And he didn't quite stay the trip. He's never really stayed 3 miles from me. So this unusual trip is 2 miles 6 here, isn't it? At a pretty sharp track in Musselburgh. I thought if he was ever going to win a race again, it'll be a race at a sort of sharpish 2 miles 6 going right-handed. And that means it's this or nothing for Glenforsa. So if he's not good enough to win this off 127 or 129 rather, then I think it looks like retirement beckons for him. But that's rarely the case. People tend to keep going in the hope of something turning around. But yeah, he would be the one that interests me there. But also, when I find that I'm interested in Glenforsa for a race, I try to sit my hands a little bit and not spend too much money. So.
You try and have a word with yourself.
Yeah.
Just to check yourself at that point when Glenforsa is the horse that you're trying to come down on the side of. He is a 92 price, but it is just a horrible, horrible race. I think that the lads have all made that pretty clear. So we'll move on to the 240 then at Musselburgh. This is the turn of the Scottish County handicap hurdle, which is a 0 to 145 handicap hurdle for 4-year-olds and over, again, over just shy of 2 miles. And I'm actually going to get in there now first, if you don't mind, lads, because I do have my nap of the weekend.
Can we guess it?
No, you cannot guess it.
Can we have one guess each?
Okay, go on then, just out of interest, because I hope one of you
Glory
gets
and Honour.
Pardon?
Glory and Honour.
No, I was marginally...
Rory, your guess.
My guess would be Highly Prized.
No. Oh,
Daryl,
God.
your guess, come on.
My guess would be 5 and 20.
No! Oh, for God's sake,
Oh.
this is not boding well for my nap in any way, the fact that all 3 of you have not guessed it. I was just about to go with Glory and Honour, but I'm actually going with Anna Bunina in the hope that she can cope with the quick turnaround here. For me, she just has a perfect profile with almost perfect profile for this race. She may not be as highly rated as I really want for this race. However, you do have to remember this isn't a great renewal of this race. Top weight is only 139. So that has to be factored in and brings her into contention clearly off of her marker 133. She's had the 2 starts this season. So I'm hoping it's not going to be major that she did only run a week ago. She finished 4th of the 5 in the Grade 2 Yorkshire Rose Mares Hurdle, which was a slight disappointment, admittedly. But she's already had a reciter over this course and distance on a reappearance. I just think she's been found a perfect opportunity here. She's a nice price as well at 8-1. So Anna Bunina will do for me. But I will head back. I think it's Rory's turn, is it? Rory, I'll head back to you for this race, please.
Yeah, I just thought she'd been a bit disappointing, Anna Bunina. She was weak in the market at over this course and distance on New Year's Day when she was quite well tipped up. And obviously, I could see that she might have just needed that run. But she would slightly, well, it's not really out of her depth. And it wasn't a particularly good Grade 2 she ran in last time at Doncaster. And it seems a slightly odd ploy to run her in consecutive weekends like that. So
or
John
genius,
McConnell, obviously.
Or genius.
Yeah, it could be genius. It could be John McConnell's way of getting everyone not to look at Pearl of the West. So I don't know. I didn't massively like the race. I like Highly Prized. I like Highly Prized as a horse. I feel that he's probably a few pounds too high on the handicap. But you might make a point here that it's not necessarily about where you are in the handicap. It's about the shape of the race. He's got a bit of class. I really fancied him for the Betfair Hurdle a couple of years ago when he did not run particularly well on the back of an excellent win at Huntingdon. I still think the argument for him there was still sound enough, and he's won off a higher mark since. But the thing is, he won a sort of summer handicap hurdle at Southwell of 130. He's £9 higher than that. If he wasn't plying his trade in the summer, he'd be lower in the weights. And I'm always wary of horses who've gone up in the weights for winning less competitive races. But he does need a sound surface. He's an interesting horse in it. He started off at Newmarket and then went to the States, where he won several times on firm ground. And then he's come back here for a hurdling career. So he's had an interesting life, Highly Prized. His best form is was on a sound surface, a very sound surface. But actually, it was good to soft when he won at Huntingdon, and he did that in really nice style. So good to soft is fine for him. Musselburgh ground doesn't get particularly deep anyway. And he does have a touch of class about him. The yard continues in really good form, Emma Lavelle, and yard form is an issue with a couple of them in here, including John McConnell, I would say. John. I don't want to have a go at Anna Bunina again, but John's horses are always really interesting in the UK, but it's just not firing on all cylinders in the last couple of months. But Emma Lavelle is Highly Prized, was tried over fences at Uttoxeter, jumped okay, but he's never really struck me as a chaser, particularly given his flat career in the States. And I think he will bounce back here. Whether he's good enough to win off 139 is a slight question mark, but I think I'd give it a big shot.
Yeah, so Highly Prized then for Rory after he's just completely torn apart my nap. So thanks so much for that, Rory. I hugely appreciate it.
The only thing that matters for you is the result in the end, Kate. So
I'm feeling very confident now for that. No, but it is an interesting race nonetheless, and Highly Prized obviously is fascinating. Then as the top weight in this race, Andrew, your turn, please, for the Scottish County.
Yeah, my turn to grab Anna Bunina as well.
No, don't do it. Stop attacking me.
I did so last week when Daryl liked her. She finished 4th of 5. She's not a winter horse. Even when she gets unseasonably quick ground in the winter, she's 0 from 7th November to February. She's a March to October horse, and I rode her up in the weekender as a one to back under those conditions. So I don't think Saturday is going to be the day.
Andrew, global warming is basically spring now.
I like it. There's 3 that interested me. Glory and Honour, who last week at Cheltenham in Cromier, the Cromier Severance race in which Daryl tipped the forecast. And Severance would have won had he gone around the outside instead of the inner on the deeper ground. Glory and Honour took that route as well and was prominent towards the inside, but wasn't the place to be. So I thought Glory and Honour had a great chance. 5 and 20, the Donald McCain horse. 5 runs at Musselburgh, 4 wins, and a 4th last time out behind Tommy's Oscar. Again, second run after Windop. He's been well supported, 8s into 5s, anti-post. And the other one was the Nick Alexander horse, Diocletian, first run back after Windop. My angle with the Nick Alexander horses is back them second run after the wind up. They do incredibly well, make a good profit, and so many of them have run well and defeated big prices as well. There's a big in-running angle. So I'm looking for Diocletian to probably run well without winning, with a view to backing that one next time out. But I'll go Glory and Honour over 5 and 20. 1st of March, I'm all over Anna Bunina, but not on the 5th of February.
Right. Thanks for that, Andrew, so much. Daryl, last word to you. Please, no attacking Anna Bunina from you, and just pure positives about your own selection, please.
She was so disappointed last week.
Oh, for God's sake.
I'd like to know what the excuse was for that last week before I back her again 7 days later. That was
she's been turning out so quick. Surely it's a positive. Anyway, I'm going to stop making a case for
that's
her.
the case with Glory and Honour, turning him out 7 days later, because I thought he ran a blinder at Cheltenham. I thought he did really well, up with the pace for most of the race. Just echo what Andrew said basically about going around the inside route. Excuse me. He sort of, I think he was sort of taken by surprise. I think the Stan Shepherd was taken by surprise a little bit, because the pace quickened just before the turn into the home straight, and everything had come wide and swamped him, and he sort of had nowhere to go really. But he quickened up really nicely coming down the home straight. I thought he panicked and sort of made his move too early, if that sort of makes sense. And I thought he was better than the bare result. I thought it was an excellent run. He's been dropped £3 for that. I actually think he's a better horse going right-handed, and the quick ground would be no issue. I think this sharper, tighter track will suit him very well. And I think he's got a good chance off a handicap mark that is essentially in free fall a little bit at the minute.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely is, isn't it? Yeah, I was just he was my second section here. I was just slightly concerned about, I know he's been dropped an extra £3 than for last amount, but just in the context of this race, I didn't know if he was too lowly rated for it, but it isn't a great renewal, so it may well just counteract that. So we will swiftly move on from that race. Loads of encouragement there. Thanks, guys. To the 3:45 then at Musselburgh. This is the Edinburgh National Handicap Chase, a 0 to 150 contest for 5 rods and over 3 miles, 7 furlongs, 108 yards. And I mean, I'm just tired reading that trip, to be honest. So, Daryl, only 7 runners. Who wins, please?
Yeah, I've got a good bet in here, I think. The Wolf. I really like the Wolf for this. I like Highland Hunter, but I can't have him carrying 11-12 around nearly 4 miles around Musselburgh. I think the Wolf's been crying out to go further than 3 miles. I thought it was an excellent run behind fullback at Cheltenham last time. The time before as well, behind 2 for Gold, and the time before behind Fortescue, which has worked out well. He's on a very fair mark of 137. He's been rated as highly as 144. There'll be no ground concerns at all. He's probably got some of the strongest form over 3 miles in this race. I think he ticks a lot of boxes. His RPRs are climbing, so I think he's on course to run another career best next time. I didn't like the rest in the race behind him. I know Mighty Thunder's got a good record at Musselburgh, winner of this race last year, but rated 148 now. Is he better than that? I don't really know. I don't think so. And Highland Hunter, I can't really have him being better than a mark of 149. I think this race is asking for something to take a step forward in, and I'm going to have a good bet on this, because I think the Wolf is well handicapped.
Yeah, definitely in there at 10 to 3 at the current time of recording them for the Wolf for Daryl. So, Rory, yourself, please, for the Edinburgh National.
I didn't like it enormously as a race, but yeah, I agree with Donald that Highland Hunter was initially interesting, but I thought he's high enough in the weights now. I don't think the plan was to win at Sandown a couple of starts ago. I think he was being set up nicely for the Welsh National, and the Welsh National was pretty grueling as well. So I'm just a little bit wary of backing him at a shortish price. And although Mighty Thunder is better than he's shown this season, and obviously really came onto his own last spring, I thought he was high enough in the weights on balance. He's a lot higher than he was when he won this last year, £19 to be exact. Whether he'd wanted a bit softer as well was something I thought. I was inclined at a biggish price. I'm not looking at the odds, but I thought Step Back was interesting.
Ooh,
he'll enjoy himself. He's not been leading on recent starts, but I think with Lily Bradstock, Mark and Sarah Bradstock's daughter on board, I think he will revert to front running tactics. And when he's allowed to make his own running on goodish ground going right-handed, he can be a pretty decent horse. Obviously not quite the force of old, but he's very lightly raced for a horse of his age. I thought he could bounce back. He was a dual winner in 2021 at Sandown and Wincanton on good ground, ridden by a claimant both times. And although Lily Branstock's not got a huge amount of experience race riding, she's done a fair bit of point-to-pointing. And I looked back at her winning the 4-miler at Cheltenham at the Hunter Chase maybe a couple of years ago, and I thought she was pretty good that day. So I'm not massively worried about the rider in the grand scheme of things. And I thought Step Back could surprise here at the price.
Yeah, 12-1 then, Step Back. And as you say, he is very lightly raced for a 12-year-old, isn't he? Only 16 starts under rules to go as 8 point-to-point starts. So quick maths, 24 career starts in all for this 12-year-old is very lightly raced for you. He was able to dictate then on the front end. Andrew, your way into this race, please.
Yeah, not a great deal to add. Siding with the youngest horse in the race has often been the way in. We've had 3 8-year-olds and an 8-year-old second, when that age group didn't win, so that pays a compliment to Daryl's pick, the Wolf. And I'm a big Step Back fan as well. And again, right-handed, smallish field from the front, can see him running well despite advancing years. So maybe I'll just throw my 2 penneth at the lads' selections and do a reverse forecast.
That's it then, Andrew, in complete team player there and siding with both of the lads' selections in the 3:45 at Musselburgh. So that's us done with Musselburgh, as Andrew will be delighted about. So we're going to move on to our one race then from Wetherby. This is the
I'll stop you there, Kate. I accidentally looked at one of the other races and clearly got confused about my timings, but don't worry about that.
Are you sure you don't want to go back and cover it?
He wants paying for it.
I won't pay for everything. I'll put it in my column.
Okay, right. We'll look forward to that then. Anyway from Andrew. So we will head to the 2:30 at Wetherby. This is the Towson Novices Chase. This is a grade 2 for 5-year-olds and over 3 miles. We get to see Ahoy Senor back out. He's currently a 4-5 shot against a super likeable Sam Palais at 11-4 second in the market. Then there's Ashtown Lad, and the outsider is Noble Yates. So, Andrew, back to you. Difficult to find a betting angle into this race. Do you take on Ahoy Senor or do you side with him?
Yeah, first of all, use its proper name, the Toy Town, not the Townton. Always been the Toy Town to me. Now, interesting. Ahoy Senor. Will he do what he did at Newbury and just blast off from the front? But does he need softer ground than he's going to get on Saturday? It's likely to be good according to the forecast. So, a 13-8 on, you can leave him alone and let him go on back. I was impressed by Son Palais at Newbury last time. I know that race, isn't the race it was since sort of Jadami won it back in the day. But he still won from off the pace at Newbury over fences, which isn't exactly easy to do. So and you look at the horses who prepped in handicap company coming to the Toy Town. They've often done well. I mean, but Baywing won this off a handicap run at 33-1 in 2017. Haltonic won it at 14-1 off a handicap run in 2007. There was another one, the name escapes me, at 9-4 in between that pair. So I thought at the prices, I'll be looking at maybe sort of Son Palais to cause a bit of an upset. I say upset, 132nd favourite. Ashtown Lad, I thought, is a spring horse and is probably just being geared up for a sort of handicap at Cheltenham or Aintree and won't be at its best today. And Noble Yates I wasn't particularly keen on. So yeah, I'll go Son Palais just to upset the jolly.
Okay, yeah, Sam Palais then to take on the odds on shot at the head of the market. Daryl, do you also take that approach or different for you?
No, I want to take him on. I do want to take him on here. I mean, I keep getting this horse wrong, in all honesty. I didn't really believe the Aintree hurdle form last year of his beating a Brave Man's Game. I remember saying a few weeks back. So that's why I took him on at Newbury. He was very impressive at Newbury, but the race has not really worked out. And then last time at Kempton, I know right-handed's probably not his thing. But for me, he just found the fences coming at him too fast as well. And he was just getting in too tight. Going back left-handed is probably going to suit him. But you've got to remember at Newbury, he did jump out to the right. Now, I'm not entirely convinced that he wants a quicker surface like he's going to get at Wetherby. And I'm not entirely convinced that the Wetherby track is going to suit him either, because these fences do come at you quite thick and fast. And he's going to have to be very much on point with his jumping. I think there's 4 fences in the home straight here. So he's not going to have the opportunity to just go out in front and gallop them into submission, because he's going to be meeting fences very often at Wetherby. There's not a lot of galloping time other than the bends, really. If he starts jumping out to the right again, I think he'll end up getting beaten. I think St. Palais is the bet, actually, at 10-3. I loved what he did at Newbury. I was really impressed with the way he
130.
Yeah, 130. I was really impressed with what him and Jericho Rock did. I think Jericho Rock, if they can get him out quick enough, would have a great chance in the Ultima at Cheltenham. But I love the way he pulled clear. And he's got that bit of course experience as well. So I think there's a lot in St. Palais' favour and not so much in Ahoy Signor's favour, in all honesty. And just touching on the weights quickly, 5-year-olds get a £6 weight allowance here. So he's effectively getting £11 from St. Palais, from Ahoy Signor, which means Ahoy Signor has actually got to improve to win this race. So, yeah, I wanted to take him on, in all honesty. I really do.
Yeah, for sure. Like I say, and especially with the price leading you that way as well. And when you've just mentioned all of those factors in St. Palais' favour and against Ahoy Signor, that does make a very strong case to be taking him on with. Rory, are you in agreement with the lads, or are you siding with the favourite?
No, I'm in total disagreement. Ahoy Signor will win this by about 35 lengths, I would say.
Punchy.
By distances. I've actually just put Ahoy Signor up as an anti-post bet for the Brown Advisory Novices Chase at the Cheltenham Festival. Listen, I've gone back and looked at the Aintree race. I've heard a few people suggest that he rather stole it at Aintree. You go back and watch that race again. The field are really well grouped up, turning for home. He's got a good gallop, but he hasn't sort of sneaked any hasn't sort of sneaked a 10-length lead. Brave Man's Game was within a length and a half of about the second last hurdle, and he's beaten him 7 lengths.
Do you not? Sorry to jump in, Roy. Do you not think, though, that's end of season form and Brave Man's Game had a really tough race at Cheltenham?
No, because he's put up on the figures that I've seen and on the time figures, he's put up a remarkably similar performance at Aintree and Cheltenham. He's just brushed aside by better horses both times. I think Ahoy Signor is the real deal. I think he showed that at Aintree. He wasn't expected to because he was a big price. And then I know the Newbury race is hard to draw conclusions from, but again, you're looking at the clock, and he put up a good performance there. He made a mistake at the Worcester, and that can often ruin a horse's confidence over fences. And he's made one more mistake in that, but actually at most of his fences, he was very good, and he was gaining ground on his rivals. Kempton was all wrong for him. You're right. You've put it nicely there. The fences were coming at him rather than him coming at the fences. But looking back at Aintree again, the question is he fundamentally a sound jumper or not? For me, he is a very sound jumper in the way he went about things over hurdles, and you can see that he needs to be rolling along. He needs to find a rhythm early. But when he does, I think he could be very, very good indeed. Kempton was just completely the wrong track for him to find a rhythm. He didn't jump badly, but he was never able to use his stride there. He was never able to get away from a horse who's got a better turn of foot than him. And you run that race again, you still fancy Brave Man's Game to win it. But I think as time goes on and Ahoy Signor gains experience, bear in mind he only made his debut a year ago. He's very, very short in experience. To have done what he's done in the space of time he has is very impressive. I would rather have seen him running something like the Denman Chase at Newbury to give Connections the opportunity to find out where they stood with the older horses. And it's a wee bit disappointing they're running him in this race, because it pretty much means they're going to go down the novice route with him. It's very hard to win a race like this and then say, yes, we're going to run in the Gold Cup.
Rory, again, sorry to interrupt. Is he ground dependent? I'm just looking through. He's been pulled out through good to soft, good, and good to soft. So it's officially good at the moment, I think, or good to soft in places at Wetherby. Will he just outclass them and win despite the ground?
Yeah, I don't think. I think because this is the best horse they've ever had. I think Lucinda Russell and Peter Scudamore are very, very careful not to take any chances. It's kind of a Jenny Pittman approach. Remember Jenny Pittman, with all her good horses, she'd never run them if she thought the ground was wrong. She was constantly putting them out and calling clerks of the course very rude names and stuff like that. And I think they're being a little bit like this with the Ahoy Signor, because they see him as a Gold Cup winner. And if there's a race in which they don't need to take a chance with the ground, they're being careful. I think they wouldn't worry too much if it was if the race they had in mind for him at Cheltenham was on good ground. They may look at this again and say, well, actually, we do have the option. We could go to Newbury run him, and they may think about pulling him out here because of that. But I haven't heard anyone say that.
Yeah, so I'd love to see him in a Ladbrokes Trophy or a Welsh National. Would be
yeah, exactly.
Incredible for the front of those.
Because yeah, he's slightly. He's a bit reminiscent of Carvel's Hill in that way when you talk about the Welsh National. Just the way his ability to just keep galloping at the entry was hugely impressive. He needs to harness that properly over fences, and he hasn't quite done that yet. But again, he's only had 5 races over obstacles in his life. He's going to keep learning. I think your point about the ground is a valid enough one. I don't think he would struggle to handle it, but I think they're clearly not keen to keep running him on ground that's faster than you'd expect at the time of the year outside of the festivals. So we'll see what they do at Wetherby. Wetherby, they used to have issues with the ground when it got quick early season, so because they had to relay the track partially because of the rebuilding work with the M1, didn't they? And there were issues with the ground for a while there, but I haven't heard any moans about Wetherby's ground in the last couple of seasons. So hopefully he goes ahead with it. This wouldn't really be the race to. I'm not going to punt him at 8-13 here. But I say I would very, very happily back him at 8 or 9 to 1 for Cheltenham.
Yeah, for the Brown Advisory, then for the 3 mile novice chase, the old RSA, if that helps you in any way, listening out or watching out there for which race we're exactly talking about for the novices races at the festival. But dividing opinions then at Wetherby. So we will move on to our final meeting of the day. And lads, if it's okay with you, we might just have to go through this quite quickly, which is a bit of a shame. But in case of this podcast being a 2-hour special, then we're going to fly through these Leopardstown, a couple of races we have scheduled. So our first one is the 135. This is the grade 1 spring hurdle for 4-year-olds over 2 miles. This is, of course, a juvenile contest, therefore, and it's going to be absolutely fascinating to see these horses on the first day of the Dublin Racing Festival. I just hope that, obviously, the ground doesn't dry out too much. We're getting positive signs as so far today, anyway, that the ground, that the Leopardstown team there have done a really good job with it. But, as I say, we begin with this race then at 135, where we currently have Fieldor at the head of a market to hopefully stake his claims as one of, if not the best juvenile hurdler around yet again. So, Rory, who do you like in this race, please?
I'm not going to say I don't like Fieldor, but I'm not going to be backing Fieldor here. I think the early season juvenile form was largely very ordinary, and he was the best of an ordinary lot. He could be better than he's had to show because he's been winning his races. But I don't think those races have been particularly strong. And there are a couple of options here. The obvious one is backing Vauban to beat him, who very much caught the eye on debut. Slightly concerned by the addition of a tongue tie for Vauban in a race that comes up pretty quickly. And also he doesn't quite have the archetypal Willie Mullins profile, which is normally, pick him up, give them a year or more on the sidelines while you establish their credentials and then let them loose. He was running for his previous yard last summer. And the one I want to be with at a big price here is Ben Siegel. I was keen to be with him at Christmas. He was among the entries for the race that Fieldor won at Leopardstown on St. Stephen's Day, as we say in Ireland, the Knight Frank Juvenile Hurdle. But he wasn't declared to run there. Makes me worry ever so slightly about whether his trainer was happy with him at the time. But I thought he made a really, really impressive hurdles debut at Punchestown. It wasn't the strongest race in the world. It was a big field contest, but he put it to bed in really impressive style in the straight to beat Prairie Dancer 4.5 lengths. Now, I think you might be seeing Prairie Dancer in something like the Boodles, not the Gold Cup Boodles, the other Boodles. I think he's an interesting horse long term. And in behind it, there wasn't a huge amount, except for Dr. Churchill, who's won a couple of times since. So the form's okay there, but it wasn't so much the depth of the race. It was it was how professional Ben Siegel was. His jumping was assured. He looked to really enjoy it, and he quickened well to put the race to bed at the second last. And I thought he had the look of a horse who could go a fair way over hurdles. And although I was disappointed not to see him over Christmas, the fact that Noel Meade sticks him in a race like this on his second start at hurdles suggests that he hasn't lost any confidence in him. He's a biggish price. He's maybe about 16 to 1.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, 16. And
on paper, he's got a bit defined, and his flat form was only fairly ordinary. He was a winner of marks of 55 and 59 on the flat, and there'll be horses who are classier than this. But of course, You only have to go back a year and look at in the same colours. Look at the horse who won the Boodles last year, Jeff Kidder. I mean, he still can't win in the flat. He was running in flat handicaps this summer off marks in the low 50s and struggling to win. Whereas he's almost a sort of 150 hurdler. And Ben Siegel represents the same connections. And he again has taken really well to hurdling. I think he's going to outstrip his flat form massively in this sphere. And the one thing we knew about him on the flat was that given an opportunity, he would win. And that's always a good sign as well. I'd rather have a horse who's winning off marks in the 50s than a horse who's constantly getting beaten off 70 odd. So I think he will run well, and he'd be one of my better bets of the weekend at that kind of price.
Oh, nicely done then. Yeah, so 16-1 about Ben Siegel. As you say, he's been with me for his entire career, and he does look a big price there, considering the confidence to chuck him into a race of this nature for Noel Mead. So, Andrew, back to you, please, for this race.
Yeah, I've made a few quid over this race in the years by opposing horses coming from Maiden Hurdle Company to Grade 1 company in one swoop. They might turn out to be top class in the end, but they don't always win at the first time of asking, trying to make that big leap. So I'll be looking at Phil Dore and probably playing that one in the forecast with others who've run behind him previously, like 6 Feet Apart and Scenic Luke, who are priced at 66-1 and 200-1. Scenic Luke, I've got my eye on for the Fred Winter stroke Boodles. But yeah, just opposing the Maiden Hurdle horses, second, third, fourth, and fifth in the betting at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. Then for Andrew's way into this race, and then Daryl, for you.
If Vauban clears the last comfortably at Punchestown last time on debut and beats Pied Piper quite comfortably, Pied Piper goes out and does what he does at Cheltenham. Vauban's an even money favourite for this easily. I would totally echo Rory's sentiment about Phil Dore's early season form. I don't believe it. I think people can get too excited about juveniles too early on. I do think he's a very nice horse. I'm not one to. I don't want to write him off just yet, but I do think that the 3 1s next to his name probably look better than the bare form does when you actually go through it. I thought Vauban was a very promising debutant for Willie Mullins at Punchestown. He's got a couple of questions to answer here. The quicker ground, the tongue tie first time, of course, is a slight worry, but he was very highly touted before that debut run, and the form has been advertised very well. Now I know a lot of people will say Pied Piper has improved chunks since that run, but I don't know about that. Looking at the British juvenile form this season, I've flagged it up more and more times that it's been poor this year. So I wouldn't go as far to say that Pied Piper has improved chunks. So it'll be very interesting. I've got no financial interest, but obviously I fancy Vauban for the juvenile hurdle for the Triumph hurdle. So yeah, I'll be watching with a close eye.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating if Vauban goes and wins that, with what connections of obviously Pied Piper and Phil Dore are going to do to separate those two, then in which way they're going to go down, because at the minute they're talking about Pied Piper potentially being a supreme horse and then Phil Dore being the stayer then for the Triumph. But who knows? It's all going to potentially get thrown up in the air then this weekend at Leopardstown. Now, our final scheduled race comes from Leopardstown. This is a 3:15. It's a big one. It's the Grade 1 Irish Gold Cup chase for 5-year-olds and over 3 miles, where, the market is sort of flip-flopping all over the place, really. We have Kenboy as the current market leader, but it is a tricky race to assess. The reigning Gold Cup winner in here, Manella Indo, bidding to bounce back from his King George disappointment. So, Daryl, back to you. Who wins the Irish Gold Cup?
I don't know who wins it, but the bet for me is Cilaos Emery at 66-1, because I think he's wildly overpriced. He's rated 160 over fences. Now, he is stepping up to 3 miles. There is a bit of stamina in the family, but you can get 5 places 28-1 with Betfair, for example. And I just think that's ludicrous, because I don't think Conflated's good enough. I don't think Janadil will stay the trip as much as they will try and tell you he will. Delta Work first time cheap piece is interesting, but his jumping's been letting him down. Asterion for Longe is Asterion for Longe. Manila Indo needs to bounce back. I mean, 5 places at 28-1 for Cilaos Emery. I didn't have a confident enough view about who would win, because I like Frodon, I like Kenboy, but I thought that would be the bet, and that would do for me in what was a race very tricky to solve, to be honest.
Yeah, very tricky. And I thought that myself, the Cilaos Emery did look wildly overpriced. They say around 66-1 does look absolutely huge then for his chances in this, but tricky race to assess. Andrew, yourself, please.
Not looked at it in any great detail, so a pass from me.
Not at all. Rory, yourself. Oh, we've got you on mute, Rory. The dog barking.
I have a theory here which will be tested
Okay.
in the race. I don't think Manila Indo gets on with Rachel Blackmore at all.
Okay. Okay, that's quite.
That is in no way meant to be a criticism of Rachel. But he's been, for me, he's been an absolute pig when she's ridden him the last 3 or 4 times. Whereas when she naturally got off him for the Gold Cup last year, he was on his best behavior. He was an absolute dream ride. But she rode him in this race last year when he was a hot favourite, and he kept putting down when she asked him to pick up. And he basically was really ignorant, didn't do anything she asked him to do in the race, kept putting in an extra stride at the fences, and was just generally, like a moody adolescent. As I said, he then won the Gold Cup, and Rachel was despite the fact she had the week of her life at Cheltenham, that it really hurt that she didn't win the Gold Cup.
Yeah.
You can write off his return behind Frodon to some degree, but again at Kempton, he did not. She had a plan. She wanted to make sure that Frodon didn't get an easy lead, and she needed him. She didn't want to go hell for leather, but she wanted him to put in good jumps at some of these fences just to keep Frodon honest. And again, he took whatever excuse he could to back off. And for me, either that's just a sign. If it wasn't for the Gold Cup, you'd say this horse is going backwards. But he did what he did in the Gold Cup. It's a tremendous performance. And obviously that was the one time that Rachel hasn't ridden him in recent times. So my view here is there's a chance that Manila Indo will look a different horse entirely with Robbie Power on board. Again, I think Rachel is still an absolutely top-notch rider. It's not about her. It's about communication between an individual horse and an individual jockey. And some horses just don't get on with some people and do with others. So I think it'll be interesting to see how Robbie gets on with Manila Indo.
I've actually tipped him for the Gold Cup because I do think the last 2 runs can be completely written off. The cheek pieces, Kempton, I just thought was all wrong. He's got a poor record right-handed. He always needs his reappearance run. So I do think you can write them 2 runs off. And the fact that you brought the Rachel Blackmore into it, it's quite interesting actually, because there's another.
Yeah, listen, if you want to just look at him in this race last year, look at the Rachel's body language, see where she sees a stride and says, right, take off here, and he just doesn't. He just ignores her, and he was like that at Kempton as well. Now it may well the fact that Henry de Bromhead wanted to put cheek pieces on him at Kempton is a concern in itself. It suggests that temperament might be getting the better of him, and that's why he's doing that to help Rachel. But they've been abandoned here. I wouldn't be hugely confident, but and in form terms, he should still be a shorter price than he is. A Kenboy can't be favourite for this, can he?
Would you rather back him at 7-1 for the Gold Cup, or 8-9-1 for the Gold Cup, or 10-3 here?
There aren't too many here.
130.
I would. I think it's. I'd rather back him. I'd rather back him here and see where I stand. And see if the theory is right. If he jumps really well, because his jumping's hasn't always been a strong suit. He's always inclined when a stride is there to put in a short one. And if he does that again, then that would still count against him long term. But I'd give him one more chance. Again, you still have to be slightly concerned about the de Bromhead form. It's not been a good couple of months for the de Bromhead stable.
It was a good chat up until that point, Rory. Good chat until then.
But I'd give one more.
Special horse biscuits probably haven't arrived yet, so
yes.
They'll be here in time for Cheltenham.
He's a trainer who does get his horses absolutely spot on in March, and he doesn't tend to be nearly as. And we say that about Willie Mullins, but if you look at Willie's winners historically in December and January compared to Henry de Bromhead's, and indeed throw Gordon Elliott into that mix, they tend to be getting a lot more run-of-the-mill winners. Henry tends to be a little bit quieter, and then Cheltenham, particularly last year, he really turns it on. So I'd give him a chance, Manila Indo, but there's a lot of horses I wouldn't like in this race. Good luck with Cilaos Emery staying 3 miles. If you got that right, Daryl, you're a genius, because I cannot see him staying in a month of Sundays. The blindingly obvious one in the race is Frodon. He will really appreciate the ground more than most of these. And again, they're potentially going to be playing catch up with against Bryony. The fact that he was taken on in the King George and Ramby Low form as a result means they might have forgotten that he can steal races from the front, given the way that Bryony rides him. So if they're not aware of that again, then he's a really dangerous one. And he always tends to give his running when things are in his favor. So I think he's he's the one, if you needed one to run a good race to save your life, you'd be with Frodon. But I will just take a chance on Manila Indo at a bigger price, based on what I've been saying about the fact that he's not been giving his running for Rachel, and a change of pilot might just do the trick with him.
Yeah, definitely. And I am in total agreement then with Manila Indo as well. I probably would side with your angle more so, Daryl, where I'd rather side with him for the Gold Cup, I think, at his current price rather than this race. However, I still can't leave him at 100 to 30 for this race here on the back of two very forgivable runs. Thanks, Andrew. On the back of two very, very forgivable runs. I know that Leopardstown hasn't been his track in his two starts at the track so far, falling in the Savills Chase, jumping on no confidence then in this race last year. However, we know that he's gone and won a Gold Cup since then. So I can completely forgive him for his runs there and then for this season. And I do think it's fascinating. I guess Robbie Powell's riding him because Rachel Blackmore's going to ride a Pluton in the Gold Cup. So
yeah, that's correct.
Wants a sighter or a sit on him at least. So yeah, in agreement then for Manila Indo for me as well. So that is all of our scheduled races covered. So Andrew, I'm going to throw it back to you for any other bets from a Dublin Racing Festival.
Hang on, I'm just going to take my time because we're into double time now because we've done twice the time of a normal podcast.
You may go through quickly then.
Do you remember the note we had that said keep it punchy? So no, nothing else for me.
Nothing else for you, Rory or Daryl? Daryl, go to you then. Anything else from Leopardstown?
Yeah, I really like a wave of the sea in the 350. It's a good bet. You're going to want to hear it, honestly.
I've tipped it up in Racing Football Outlook. The youngest horse always wins this race, and Wave of the Sea was the youngest horse when he won it last year.
There you go. He's the youngest horse again. Yeah, back down to a mark of 142. The booking of Shane Fitzgerald is very, very interesting for the yard. Drops back to 2 miles. Going to get a good pace on with Mount Leicester, trying to probably go and steal it from the front, but I don't think I think he'll get caught late on. So yeah, Wave of the Sea for me.
Wonderful. Wave of the Sea then in the 350. And Rory, yourself for Leopardstown?
No more Leopardstown, other than sort of to back that up, that Joseph O'Brien's a yard he's really firing at the moment, and he's well worth siding with generally.
So another vote of confidence then for a Wave of the Sea in the 350 at Leopardstown. Now I'm going to open the floor. Anything else from anywhere else? Any of the meetings we may not have covered?
No.
Yeah, just one. Now.
Oh, here we go. He comes back now.
Yeah. 4 o'clock Lingfield, fast track qualified, good effort. 6 from 6 on polytrack in Europe. 5 furlongs to Peter No Good at Newcastle last time. 7 to 4, good effort.
In the 4 o'clock then at Lingfield, good effort for Andrew. And anything from anyone else? No problemo. Any other tips will of course be on the column. All that's left to do is to get your nap. So Daryl, back to you for your nap, please.
Wave of the Sea. Let's go the Wolf. 3:45 at Musselburgh.
Perfect. Andrew, nap, please.
Good effort. 4 o'clock Lingfield.
Perfect. Rory.
I'm going to go with Ben Siegel in the spring juvenile at Leopardstown.
Wonderful. And to spite the lads, I'm going to go Anna Bunina in the 240 at Musselburgh. So that is everything from us. A proper blockbuster show then this week. Thank you so much for sticking with us through everything. I'm sure you could appreciate there was an awful lot to cover. Luckily, top class racing in the main that we had to talk about anyway. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Thank you to the lads for all of their hard work as per usual, but especially this week. Thank you to our sponsors, SBK, and enjoy the racing this weekend. We'll speak to you again next week.